The other thing is I noticed that this little stack here has an incredibly slow but persistent drip. Means I have to take it off. There's the entries for the water supply and the drain. I think I'll bring the water supply in on top and the drain on the bottom. Or maybe vice versa. Might be easier to bring the water supply in down below. It goes through this cabinet and then comes out over here in this cabinet there. And then it'll run across that corner and into, that's the drain. So that should work just fine. We're going to string it now and see how much of that blue we got. And then I'll do a join probably inside this compartment so you can pull this dishwasher out. If I can do it, I'm going to do that. Have all the fittings terminate within this cabinet here. So that means in the back of here we're going to have water and drain connectors right on the back of the cabinet. Hopefully that's going to give us some clearance so I can push this thing in all the way. We shall see. Otherwise they end up drooping down to the bottom there where we've got some clearance on the machine. Let's find out. Today I went out and bought a different hose for the dishwasher because I was just unhappy with the amount of bulging I got from that garden hose that I had used. So I went off and got a high pressure water hose that's rated to 500 psi. Now I think that the water pressure coming out of the tap here is nowhere near that. So this hose should be able to handle anything we throw at it. It's 2 meters long, and the one that's connected to the dishwasher is also around 2 meters long. So my guess is I've got enough run length to go from that nipple, which is going to get removed now, all the way around that corner, past the drain, and into this alcove where it should enter or exit just below. So the idea now is to run this hose off the dishwasher. It's quite long. It's got an integrated valve, and this is for anti-flood purposes. I'm going to remove that nipple and just connect it with the two hoses, which are female to female to female. All females. I've got a male to male connector for there, and the connector on this end is a male. So I'll have the right connectors. Just got to make sure that they're properly taped up, and we should have no problem. The only issue I see is feeding this massive connector through the counter, which means I may have to do a little bit of inspired sawing, because that's a big piece of plastic that's got to go through the counter. Well, be that as it may, that should be no problem. The other thing is I noticed that this little stack here has an incredibly slow but persistent drip. Means I have to take it off and redo it. The vertical stack is okay, the horizontal stack not okay. So I'm going to try and get that horizontal stack out, retaped, and insert it back into the vertical without messing up the seal and the vertical stack. Wish me luck. Well, here's the situation with the dishwasher. It went in last night and it was working fine. There were two little problems. First was I could not push it all the way into its alcove, which was a drag. It stuck out by at least oh, I would say a good 4-6 inches. And there was a little tiny micro drip on the water supply side. And the third thing, which wasn't a problem but could have become one, was the fact that the supply hose was bulging in a way I think is kind of dangerous. I mean, not safety dangerous, just gonna burst dangerous. So what I did today was I took another look at the installation. I took everything out, and I realized that the dishwasher has been designed for a certain kind of installation. If you look at the side, you'll notice that there's a bit of a top lip and a return, and then you have quite a large shelf or I don't know what to call it, lip. Now I'm thinking that this might be the way that Siemens wants the hoses to exit out the side here, like that. And those two hoses stacked that way would not pose any problem to the installation in terms of getting that thing pushed in as far as possible. The power cord doesn't really pose any issue. I would probably put it over the drain, like so. So you have the power cord, and then you have the drain, and then you have the let's see that, power cord, and then drain, and then the supply hose stacked on top. And these guys can flex, they get pushed in, and they'll fall quite nicely underneath that bottom lip there. So I'm thinking that I should probably be having the service exit in the bottom part of the alcove. Now the other thing that's really kind of bummed me out a little bit, for those of you who are doing this kind of install, you might want to keep track of this, is this upper lip here was the same height as my holes. So that is the exact wrong place to be putting holes if you're going to be sliding this puppy in. So I guess what I should do is measure this thing width-wise. Once you have these things installed, you want to be careful with that end. It's going to spill water absolutely everywhere if you don't manage it correctly. So I'll just put it in a bucket for the moment. That little handle flipped up so it doesn't fall over. Let's get her in there. Okay. So what we want to do maybe is measure the top depth of this thing and see how far it would go in if it was pushed all the way. So it is 23.5, we'll call it, just under 60 centimeters deep. And this counter, it should fall under the countertop. There's 60. So 23.5 should have the bottom lip falling under this lip, which is going to be a nice looking look if we can accomplish that. And the way to accomplish that is to be cutting holes in the bottom so as to get that in there, or the side, but the top is the absolute worst place to put it. So for those of you who are installing one of these dishwashers, you have a choice. You either do it in the bottom, which is ideal, and then you create your high loop after you've gone somewhere where you can do such a thing, or you go around the middle, and that might fall underneath that lid if you push a little bit. It'll squish the hoses, but they'll survive that, no problem. But don't go high. Whatever you do, don't go high, because if you go high like I did, you're going to have your hoses bumping up against that the top of the dishwasher, and that's going to cause you some trouble. So I have to rethink this installation, and while I'm rethinking the hose situation, I think I'm going to go after that plumbing stack so it doesn't drip. The supply is dripping like once every 5 minutes. So I'm going to go and have a tweak on that and see if I can't get that to stop. So that's the next thing to take care of. Well, this stack is not right. I didn't tape it correctly, so it's leaking. Now the place where it's leaking appears to be here. Sorry about that. Yeah, here and here on either side of this this is a valve, a turn-off valve, a ball valve. So when you turn it this way, water can flow. And when you turn it this way, water is stopped. And maybe you can see the ball. If I turn it on the inside, maybe you can see the off, on. Now you want this to be accessible. This part fits into the vertical stack, which is not leaking, and I sure don't want it to start leaking. But it's leaking here, and it's leaking here. Now to tighten this thing up, if you have the tools, you can use an adjustable wrench. But this one only opens to 200 mm. You can use a 17 millimeter wrench, which fits most of these 3/8 fittings. And if you have a very large fitting like this guy, I just so happen to have a 27 millimeter socket that I bought for Easy Rider that fits this. So I can accommodate all three of these different diameters. The adjustable wrench can go there, the big wrench can go there, and the small wrench can go there. First thing I'm going to test is which of these joints are kind of loose. And this one's definitely loose. So that's no good. I'm going to have to retape that. And I know this one is leaking. It's tight, but it's not watertight, and it might have been this one that was leaking. So I'm going to go take the tape off and retape them all. So here I go. So now, the last challenge is to get this into the vertical stack and then charge it and see if we get any leaks on this side. So let's get that in there.
I hope you liked this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, giving me a like, and leaving me a comment. I really enjoy making these videos, and I want to know from you how I can make them better. The whole point of these videos is to demonstrate that if I can do something, you can do it too. Well, that's it for now. So long, and remember, keep making.